Welcome back. While people are waiting for the unclassified version of the U.S. intelligence report on the origins of COVID-19, the media, quoting government sources, is saying that it has no conclusive answers. And meanwhile, 11 scientists who are part of the WHO international team that did the first round of study in Wuhan, China, now says the window of opportunity for the crucial second phase inquiry is now closing. Why is no one heeding the team's call that the investigations beyond China should also begin? Will the U.S. intelligence community fail us again? And how can all countries put their heads together to do an objective investigation? I'm pleased to be joined by current affairs commentator Einar Tangen. Hopefully we'll get to him later. But first of all, we'll be having with us Wang, chief reporter at Global Times. Wang, great to have you with us again. 11 scientists, and 5 of them actually made a warning saying that, this window of opportunity is closing, and they warned that further delay could make the origins tracing, quote unquote, biologically impossible. How do you look at this round of fresh warning?
Sorry, did you address me?
Yeah, Wang, the question goes to you.
Okay, yeah, so first of all, I mean, this it's quite shocking for the international experts that they feel the need to write an editorial such as this to call for the cooperation from the global community to continue the phase 2 of the study 1. They mentioned that the consequences, the potential impact of further delay. However, I think the delay, why it was so, there's a delay, politics, specifically U.S. politics. I think the discussion about the origin tracing, the studies, has been hijacked by the U.S. politics about this lab leak theory, specifically in Wuhan. So they feel the need, especially the timing of this editorial comes as the U.S. Media reports come out about the intelligence report. So they're very targeted, and they're calling for the international cooperation on this. And I think this should be taken very seriously. Otherwise, it's going to end not well for the study itself, for treating the pandemic and the future responses to pandemic.
Yeah, Einar, welcome back to the point. I mean, why is no one talking about surveys or origin tracing in other countries and regions, other than China, of course?
That's because this is a completely political matter at this point. This is just another way that the U.S. sees of bashing China, whether it's attacks on the South China Seas, Taiwan, Tibet, Xinjiang, Hong Kong. It's whatever club is nearby. There's absolutely nothing in that report that does it. All it says, it can't rule out things. Well, I can't rule out that aliens are on planet Earth, but nor is it very likely.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, Wang, let me go back to you. U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday received an assessment on COVID-19 origins from the U.S. intelligence community. We do not know the full versions or adapted versions yet, but some media reports quoted government sources, probably an intentional leak from the U.S. intelligence community or people who are familiar with the situation, saying that there are no conclusive answers as to where COVID began. What do you make of all this?
Well, I didn't really have much expectation from what they can draw up in terms of a result. This is an intelligence report. It's a political job. Basically, it's a political stunt put on by the Biden administration because the so-called lab leak theory has been hyped up so much, and that the United States government's response to the COVID-19 in the new waves continues to fail, that they were under so much pressure to do something, but they cannot support a objective studies by the international community, so he has to call up on his intelligence community to do that. That's in itself is a joke from the start to now. However, this is a win-win or beneficial situation. In that, it's not beneficial for the international community, for the studies, for the pandemic response, but it's for the U.S. administration and the U.S. media, because they feed each other narratives, give each other, firepower to continue to push this narrative of lab leak theory. They might not come up with a result, but they will continue to report on that, because we already seen this early signs from that, right? The CIA director, the intelligence director, already said that the reason that they cannot get evidence is because China did not share its data. That same line comes repeated. So it's an endless cycle, vicious cycle. I think it's just a political
It is a vicious
stunt.
cycle, man, but the power of U.S. narrative is very strong, like it or not. Einar, what kind of investigation into origin tracing could be done by, intelligence people, spies, who are not exactly scientists?
Well, actually, they weren't looking at the science. What they did is they admitted that they had intercepted thousands of gigabytes of emails, information, classified documents, and that they were going to data mine those to determine whether or not there had been some sort of leak. Now, that should tell you a couple of things. First off, the U.S. is always insisting that everybody's trying to spy on the U.S. Here's, red-handed, we've been spying on China. No one is surprised by that. But when you have that kind of information that Joe Biden, and his administration confirmed that they have, and you go through it, and there's no smoking gun in there that, oh, yes, we're planning to release this virus. Oh, my goodness, there was an accident. None of that was in that report. That shows you very clearly that there was nothing here. If there had been anything, literally anything, that they could hang their hat on one email, I guarantee you that would have been front and center on the front page of the report saying, yes, we have the smoking gun. Obviously, they didn't. So, that's one part of it. The other part is that, from a scientific point of view, they still don't know where Ebola came from. It took them 20 years to figure out where HIV came from. This idea, this narrative that they're pushing is that they don't have enough information, or that somehow it will be lost unless it's given to them immediately, is a complete red herring. It's not true. It's scientifically disproven. And it's just, as I said, very endemic that this is a political issue, nothing to do with science.
Wang, the WHO, after announcing a second phase of study, has not made any follow-up announcements so far. Do you think they can go ahead with a new study without China's confidence or consent?
Well, it can, but would it be objective? Would it be fair? I don't know. The WHO has made quite some shocking moves. Which surprising moves since the original study was launched and the report was launched, and that since the U.S. stepped up this hype about the lab leak theory. It is quite questionable now. The WHO, I think, is very essential to coordinate, in terms of coordinating various resources to help the study. But it should not have the power, the rights to decide the direction, the size, the regions of the studies. So I think it should be very careful how it's moving forward, because this is a very important study that pertaining to every country involved, and that it wants to move forward to appease certain international pressure. I think that would not help anybody. The study itself, the response, the WHO itself.
Einar, people have been talking about WHO chiefs or scientists or investigators from WHO being pressured into doing this or saying that. Can you help us understand this? How can people or countries practically put pressure on WHO other than increasing or cutting funding to this organization?
Well, but when you say other than cutting funding, well, that's a big issue if you're a bureaucrat and your salary depends on it. Well, there's it's power and money. The money side we just covered. Basically, U.S. has said in the past, and it was defunded by Trump, and they're concerned in it. There's a large amount of money that goes to WHO. It have to be made up somehow. The second part is power. And this is really what it comes down to. Dr. Tedros is running once again for another 5-year term. He started in 2017. He'll be running in 2022. And it's clear that, he seems to have changed his tune as soon as he made it clear that he wants to run again. The facts of the virus is very simple. If it had been engineered, there would be distinct blocks in the DNA chain where somebody was trying to introduce some new aspect that would have a, quote, gain of function. But they've examined it on all sides. Everybody has the genome. The aberrations, the changes, are very small, completely mixed, all right? This is not the way that you could introduce a genetic factor. So this idea that this is somehow created in a lab and mixed around or something like that is nonsense. It's zoonotic. The only reason that these people are saying that it's something else is because of the political pressure of the United States and other countries who are looking for a scapegoat for their very, very poor handling. I mean, not poor, I should say disastrous handling of COVID-19, which continues to this date. They don't want to say that we messed up. They want to say that somebody else is at fault. This is the same whether you're talking about Afghanistan or you're talking about COVID-19 or the demise, the inability of many American companies to compete with foreign companies. It's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah. China is once again an easy scapegoat, arguably. Wang, the debate over the origins of COVID is getting very loud. China has been saying all along that the study of its origins should be a scientific matter and should not be politicized. The West, particularly the United States, is not listening. How do you see this war of narratives going in the months and years ahead?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have quite an optimistic view on the on the future studies on the origin of COVID-19, because as you mentioned, that there are many many countries, including China and other international experts, want to move this in a scientific, in a objective fashion. However, the United States and certain other countries are pushing these political narratives, and like you mentioned earlier, that they might be wrong, but they're loud. They have a media machine, mainstream media machine, that helps them to exaggerate or push these narratives that it really clouds a scientific work that should have no political influence whatsoever. However, right now the political influence is getting upper hand, while other countries, especially China and the scientific community, is trying to push that forward. So the outlook from now is still not very promising, especially the intelligence report. We're now just seeing a part of it. There could be more, and there could be more politicking. So, it's not very promising, but hopefully at some point, more people will turn to the scientific nature of this and continue to do that in a scientific fashion.
All right, Wang, thank you so much. And thank you, Einar. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point. As always, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Download the CGTN app to watch our program. On behalf of our team, thank you for watching.